So the next thing that I want to introduce is variables. And I know we haven't really gone back to functions yet, but don't worry, we will. I'm just kind of moving around a little bit here and there to go over a few things before we get back into it. But you shouldn't forget what a function is because they're super important. We're going to go back over it later, probably after variables. It's fine. So you already know what a variable is, and you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, why are we talking about math? But variables aren't hard. They're not hard. People hear variable and they think of like algebra or algebra 2 or calculus or these high-level maths. And they don't have to be. I don't know about when you were in grade school, but I know when I was in grade school, we were already using variables. We didn't call them variables. We didn't use x and we didn't use y, but we had variables. So, for example, if I open just my text edit, we had stuff like 1 plus, how do I make a box? Hang on. We had like 1 plus black box. Well, actually, it wasn't a black box. It was just like a box outline equals like 3, right? And you're like, okay, what goes in the box, right? And of course, everyone knew, well, I think everyone knew, I knew at least, that it was 2. You just did algebra. You just did variables. You learned how to do variables when you were in like grade 2 or something. So it's not that hard. And maybe you were given a word problem occasionally, like Johnny had 5 candy bars when he left school. When he got home, he only had 3 candy bars left, right? How many did Johnny eat on the way home? And of course we know what that is. That's 2. Once again, you did algebra. Or maybe you might have in here instead, because you might be saying, well, that's 5 minus 3. That's not really algebra. But maybe you have, on the way home, he ate some of the candy bars. So that way we're introducing that variable there, right? When he got home, he only had 3 candy bars left. How many did Johnny eat on the way home? So we've got 5 minus our unknown, or our box, equals 3. So we know that box equals 2. It's algebra. Same thing for programming. It's not hard. Now, variables in programming, we can do other things too. So like, we don't just have to use numbers. We can use strings also. So we could have like text2 equals, why am I starting with text2? Let's start with text1. Text1 equals this string. Python's alright. And we could even make a second one if we wanted to, like maybe text2 equals Python's cool. Or whatever, it doesn't matter what, but you get the idea. Now, these variable names are pretty sad, and you should make better ones. Like maybe text Python or text Py, and this could be like text Py2. But something that would tell you like, oh right, I know what's in there. There's a string about Python in there, as opposed to just text1, text2, like what's in there? I don't know. Now right now, if we save this and we run this, let's reopen the terminal. This is going to do like nothing. Am I on my desktop? I'm not on my desktop. So cd desktop, there we go. And Python 3 hello world, nothing happened. It's broken, right? Well, it's not broken. So what we did here is we defined 2 variables. In our computer's RAM, it's like temporary memory if you're not familiar with computer parts. It has created a little bit of temporary memory that says, hey, we're going to call this little bit of memory here TextPy, and we're going to put inside of it Python's alright. And we're going to create another one called TextPy2, and inside of that one we're going to put this string that says Python's cool. And it did. You might not see anything here because we didn't tell this to do anything. However, if now we do print and we do text pi, and then we do print text pi 2, and I forgot to do exits, and we save this, and we rerun it. There you go. Now something to be careful of, what happens if we put this in there after this? We save it and we run it. Alright, we broke it. Why did we break it? Alright, so what happened here was we told it to print text pi, and you're saying, but it knows what text pi is, why didn't it do it? Well, it read this line, and it hadn't read this yet, so it doesn't know that text pi is that. All it knows is that we threw something in here, and it doesn't know what it is, and so it broke. So it's important that you define your variable before you use your variable. It'd be sort of like if I told you to write me a function in Python right now, and you're like, hey, you told me what a function was, but you haven't shown me how to do it, so how am I supposed to do that? Well, same thing with Python. It's saying, how am I supposed to know what to print when you haven't told me what text pi is? Same thing. Alright, now when it comes to these, once again, like I said, you could put whatever you want in here. So you could be like, we're going to call box of kittens, and we're going to use camel case, and that's where the first letter of each word is capitalized because spaces are bad. Don't use spaces. And we're going to put in here snakes, right? And that's not very nice. And so someone's going to go in here and they're going to say, oh yeah, let's get a box of kittens. And then they're going to run it, and they're going to get snakes. They're going to freak out because they were expecting some cute, cuddly kittens. So it's important that you make sense of what's in your variables. That's a little bit of an extreme example, but you get the idea. Don't go and confuse people. Don't put snakes in a box labeled kittens. It could cause some problems. Now there are a couple things that I want to mention really fast before we really go further. First off, we've got this equal sign here, right? And so when we put equal here, this doesn't really mean like equals. Well, it does, but it means more like make this equal to. So this is like the little bit of memory that we're going to call text py, make that equal to the string Python's alright. And the little bit of memory that we're going to call text pi2, we're going to make that equal to the string Python's cool. And so this is assignment. We are assigning this to that. Now that's different than if we were to say, hey Python, does this equal that? That's a completely different thing. We use them the same way. Like we say like 1 plus 2 equals what? But that's not what Python would read. Python would read like this becomes equal to whatever is here. Not is this equal to that. For is this equal to that, we actually use double equal sign. And you probably won't remember that. And actually, there's even a triple equal sign, which is also equal to. And you probably are, this doesn't mean a whole lot to you right now, but it will later on. But just be aware that this single equal sign does not mean exactly the same thing that we use it for all the time when we do math. And another thing to mention, when you're defining variables or when you're creating functions and giving them names, there are a couple things that you can't do. There are a good number of words that Python reserves and that Python needs, and you can't name them that. And if you do, it will cause problems. So, if we tried to name something print, if we tried to define something as print, that might be a problem. So, for example, print equals tacos, right? And we save it, and we run this, and it didn't like that. Because it made print into tacos, but now it doesn't know how to print text pi because print doesn't equal make this into text anymore. I've replaced it with tacos, and that's a problem because now how do I print stuff? So let's undo that, and let's rerun this, and once again we're good. Luckily, these variables are temporary, and don't cause any permanent damage. So I have not destroyed print. But that could have been bad, right? So you can think of it sort of like a dog, right? If you've got a pet dog and you're trying to have, like, I don't know, you're trying to play fetch, right? My example of fetch again. If you mention, like, I'm kind of hungry, I wish I had had more food for lunch, your dog's probably not playing fetch anymore. Your dog probably now thinks that you're going to give it food, and it's focused on the food because you said the word food, and all it heard was the word food. Right? You get the point? Food, food, food. So there's certain things you can't say. There's certain things that you can't use, or it might cause problems. So just be careful with that. Just the same way, if you're playing fetch and you said vet, like, I might have to take you to the vet later, or I'm going to have to give you a bath when we get home, the game of fetch is probably over because now the dog's probably freaking out about going to the vet or doesn't want a bath, or maybe your dog actually likes baths, whatever. But it knows that one word and it has latched onto that one word, and everything else is probably broken now. So here are just a few words that you can't use with Python. And if you notice, all of these are just like one word things, right? And so if instead you stick to using variables that are like two words, that will help keep you safe from it. Or at least it'll sure help. Right? So you can't use any of these. And not only that, but when you're creating names for like a function or a variable, you can use numbers, but don't use a number at the start. You can't do like third pi text. That doesn't work. You got to do like pi text 3 or text pi 3. You can't put the number at the front. So just be aware of those things.